Where does Europe stand on Harris and Trump?
Yeah, so listen, Tom, what we sort of talk about a great deal is about sort of the impact and the obviously very differing views on NATO and Ukraine between these two candidates. This is one of the sort of top issues for Europeans. Of course, there is also the question of trade and tariffs. We've had a lot of research out saying that basically that 10% tariff that Trump has threatened could shave 1 percentage point off of growth of GDP in Europe from the United States. And of course, there is this question, crucial question of competitiveness that we're dealing with here in Europe. And really, no matter what the outcome of the U.S. election is, this is going to be a sore point, because both of these presidents potentially are more protectionist, as Joe Biden was. But what we got also was a poll from the different nations within Europe. And the question was, if you were to vote in the American election, who would you vote for? And it's interesting, basically what you see, these are the sort of two extremes that we got in Europe. It seems like the further north you go in Europe, and Denmark, Finland, Sweden are all pro-Kamala Harris. You can see that Denmark 85%, Finland 82%, Sweden 81%. Serbia, the most supportive nation in Europe for President Donald Trump, coming in at 59%. Hungary and Bulgaria not too far behind. What I think is interesting is they actually also conducted this poll in Russia, where you had the number there. The support for Donald Trump was 43% and for Harris was 12%. So actually lower than you saw from some of these other Eastern European countries.
What about the rest of the world, Ollie?
Yeah, so when you break this down across the world in the sort of the regional blocks, this gets sort of really quite interesting. Overall, there is a clear favoring of Kamala Harris. The question was, who would you vote for in the U.S. election if you could? Overall, across the world, 53% of people said they would vote for Kamala Harris, 26% for Donald Trump. The largest spread that you saw across the world was in Latin America. There, 72% for Kamala Harris, 16% for Donald Trump. And Western Europe is not too far behind. You see that at 69% pro-Harris, 16% pro-Trump. Where the spread gets really tight, the tightest that you get really across the world, is in Eastern Europe, about a 5-point spread there, still in favor of Kamala Harris, but much closer. What I thought was interesting was the sort of Arab world in the Middle East, where the spread really dwindles down to about 4%. And when you ask in sort of more specifically some of the questions about global stability, this was another question that was on the poll that was posed to people. Under whom do you think there's going to be more stability in the world, under Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? What we saw was that if you have a Kamala Harris presidency, 32% of respondents think that the world will be more stable, only 19% in the event of Donald Trump. 36% say there will be basically the same, and 20% for Trump. And that to global stability, the question was, will it decrease under Kamala Harris? 17% said yes. Under Donald Trump, 74% of the global respondents to this poll said that global stability would decrease under President Donald Trump.